correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Hey folks, welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, and I've got another guest this week. This is someone who I actually wanted to get on for a while, someone I got to meet in October. Before I get into all that, I want to take a minute to shout out another podcast here on the D20 Radio Network, that being the We Fix Games podcast, which you heard us mention, I don't know, month and a half ago. What this is, it's actually, okay, the D20 Radio Network, right? We're mostly role-playing game stuff. People that run this, they're more video gamers. Laura and their co-host, whose name Jerica, I think, they do it's a kind of a deep dive into video games. They talk about what worked, what didn't, how they might make it better. You know, it's part thoughtful critique, part chaotic brainstorm, plenty of laughs, hot takes, and a decent amount of cussing. So come for the plot holes, stay for the unhinged redesigns is their pitch. So yeah, if you want to check them out, again, it's called We Fix Games. It's on the D20 Radio Network. And if you want to find out more about that, I think the website is still under construction, but there's a link in our show notes to the Discord channel where there's links to all the podcasts on the network. So check them out. It's a good show, good people. I've met Laura. Great fun. So this week, I have the fun of being joined by the creator of a game that up until about a month ago held a rather unique distinction for the Me and Steve podcast, and that was that, to my knowledge, it was the only title to ever get stolen in Game of the Week. Because, I'm going to say, 2.5 years ago, we were doing a show, and I was planning to use it, and I had a guest steal it out from under me. And that game is Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. And this week I'm joined by the creator, Brian Shutter. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
That is correct.
Yes. So welcome to Me and Steve, Brian.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, I got to play the game, I don't know, 1.5 years ago, and then I got to meet you in October, and I've talked about it a time or two on the show. I would say system-wise, it's not particularly unique, but it's your setting and the attitude that set it apart, in my opinion. So where do you kind of start with an elevator pitch for what is Neon Lords?
So the big elevator pitch is it's Judge Dredd, Robocop meets GWAR and the Toxic Avenger. Is kind of like that, like to kind of hit all the key like pop culture points. But yeah, it's a BX basic edition of D&D like rule set with a few extra added little bits from Dungeon Crawl Classics and stuff added on top of that, like rule-wise.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's another thing, and I'm going to say this out of the gate here and I know you'll get the reference. This book, and I do have a copy of, and I won't pick it up and show the camera because, well, we don't do the video thing. I have a copy of the Total Carnage edition, which technically is like kind of the special edition, second printing kind of thing. Is that?
Yeah. Yep.
So I have that. This book is up there, in my opinion, as one of the 2 top books in my RPG collection that drips attitude. And the other book in that contest is Cyberpunk 2020.
Oh, perfect.
Which, like I said, I know someone's going, you're not saying it's the best. Well, look, to me, in that comparison, that's a really high bar to compete with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that. That's one of my favorite books of all time.
Well, and you open that book and you flip through it, and the text, the art, everything just oozes the attitude that they want you to have playing the game. And I had gotten to play Neon Lords a while back. I was thinking about running it at our Gamer Nation Con that we do in April every year in Texas. And I was getting down to the time where I needed to get stuff, written and set up. And I thought, I'm kind of known for bringing weird and unusual stuff. I'm like, well, Neon Lords is perfect. And then I opened the book and I started going through it and I went, this is perfect. The problem is I didn't leave myself enough time to do something and to be able to give it what it deserves.
Right.
And But like to me, it's like you said. There's the wrestling kind of. The other thing I love about it, and I don't know if this was your intent, but it's kind of a game that internally seems to take itself quite seriously, but from the third person is just over the top, bizarre, gonzo, like I don't know. This is weird, dual layered fun to me for it.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, it's like in game they have like it's very serious and they have no idea that they're the butt of all the jokes, right?
Right. Well, like what? Randy Savage is a deity.
Yep. Yeah. So like the basic idea was you always think about like, oh, in the far future, and they're gonna look back at us, like what are they gonna think about, right? Like what are they gonna interpret as, like holy people and all this stuff. So it's like, well, what if like they got their hands on like a wrestling tape and then like because like I mean it's very Greek tragedy, right? It's very like Mount Olympus style like drama and everything when it comes to wrestling. So why wouldn't it like, kind of have that godlike flair, I guess.
No, I think it's cool, and like I said, it really like I don't even know where to. Yeah, it's a Mad Max Judge Dreddy kind of post-apocalyptic thing, but like you've got well now is the and I forget what they're called, but I know I played one. I know you have the ape people. Was that a I know that's a thing in the Judge Dredd universe. Is that where that inspiration came from, or was that Planet of the
So
Apes, or
Ape Warlord is actually a funny story because there's this it's like a clothing brand called Black Rainbow BL like it's like with all the vowels out of it like BLKRNBW.
mhm.
And they did our dice bags and they did a bunch of shirts and we did a lot of collabs with them and they have a poster. I don't think I have it floating around. It's like the Ape Warlord versus the Party Beholder, and that existed before us. And Black Rainbow asked me if I would stat both of those up for Neon Lords. So the Ape Warlord was actually like not my idea, and it just ended up staying in the game. But I mean, yeah, like Planet of the Apes, massive inspiration for me.
Mhm.
I love those. Like the old ones are awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, where did the inspiration for Neon Lords overall come from? Like, because it is not that there aren't other games that are but it's like I said, with the attitude that the book drips, it's like its own level of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. Like I wanted to I mean, vibe sells the game, right? Like rather than I mean, dice can be rolled like any certain amount of ways. The rules realistically don't matter a lot of times in games nowadays. I feel like the vibe sells a game more than like the mechanics do for the most part, but that was a weird tangent about it. But
Right.
the originally I wanted to make Masters of the Universe style game where everybody was He-Man. But then it's like back to rules actually like game design, you can't have a party of all He-Mans cuz you would never get anywhere. You need the diversity of a adventuring party. You need all those different character archetypes in order to survive in a lot of like the different like traps and hazards and monsters and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, and you hit on something too, like and by the way, tangents are more than welcome on this show. We joke that myself and the other Steve, who's not here this week, share an attention span.
Right.
But, like, I think to a point, unless your system is doing something really different,
Right.
I don't think system sells game other than if it happens to be your preferred favorite engine. You
Yeah.
know, if you like the Borg engine, you might buy a game because it's Morkborg driven.
Right.
But for the most part, like you said, the vibe is gonna sell it. And I think I get the impression, both having met you and even just in our conversation so far today, like Neon Lords was a world that started living in your head, and then you went, okay, I have to get other people to come share this fun.
Yeah, it was like we were playing 5e and then we got to 10th level and I was just kind of had the D&D fatigue and I was like, well, I'm just going to make my own game. Like I'm put everything I like into it and then that's just, it was a giant like stew, I guess, right? A stew. I'm not a cook, but you add all the different ingredients. So it's like, okay, Masters of the Universe, Trauma movies, Judge Dredd, Robocop, like everything I like into one game, and it kind of ended up just how it is.
Mhm. Now, I thought I overheard you at, PGX say you actually started writing this in a guard tower while you were, still in the active duty military?
Yeah, so the D&D campaign actually was on deployment. We were on QRF, which is like quick reaction force. So pretty much you got to just stay in a room all together in just in case something pops off, and you're like awake for most of the time. And like to kill that time, we ended up playing D&D. Like prior to deployment, they knew I was into the gaming and stuff, so I brought all my stuff. And but like they embraced it. It was nuts how much we played. It was like every day. I mean, we got to 10th level like by the book, within like a couple months.
Mhm.
And so I'm just like over it. So then I was like, well, like we'll still run 5e because everyone knows it, and it's a great system, to get new people into role playing games. But then on my like off time, I guess from that, like and without other duties, yeah, I just started writing my own game and kind of just figuring it all out with my just the time I had.
So, like, you mentioned and, you know, I my first game was actually WEG Star Wars 2nd edition. So I go back significantly farther than probably a lot of our listeners. You mentioned, kind of your start there was 5e. Was that your introduction to gaming in general, or have
Oh
you
no,
been into
no,
it for
that
a
was
long time?
my introduction was Hero Quest.
Okay. I've
So
heard
like
of it, I've never played it.
the Milton Bradley Games Workshop co-produced board game that I saw the commercial as a kid and I had to have it for Christmas. Unfortunately, I got it, but then like with it came with like all the plastic furniture and like all the minis and everything like for the board game. And
Mhm.
so rather than, like kind of playing the game, which is arbitrary, it's easy, it's an easy game, you would create your own scenarios and kind of like we ended up making like kind of like our own role playing game slash game board game out of it. And then with the love of Hero Quest and the idea of like, this cool fantasy stuff, I ended up getting whatever the introductory AD&D 2nd edition box at that time was. It came with like a CD. They had like dramatizations on it and stuff. I think it had like the red. I don't remember what the cover was actually. It had the dragon on it, but it was like a weird like armed dragon thing.
Mhm.
I think I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I
yeah.
well,
But
well,
yeah,
so we're back in the similar era then, mid
yeah.
to
It was
late
like
'90s.
yeah, yeah, mid 90s ish. Yeah, and then West End Star Wars. Like I had a buddy who like had all the books and he was like dying to play, but I could never get into the idea of playing Star Wars and not being like a Jedi, like in the Skywalker saga, right? Like
Mhm.
I couldn't wrap my mind at that point, and I have since then, but wrap my mind around like, well, what's the point of playing if I can't be Luke Skywalker, you know?
Eh, well, but I think that's the thing, right? Like, we all taste change as we get older, as we mature, as life changes around you, Like, I know I used to be a lot more into the kind of the combat and the tactics of gaming, and I enjoy that element to a point. But when I sit down to play a tabletop game, I much more want the unusual, the more narrative thing because, like, the way I kind of think it is, right, I can get that tactical crunch fix from playing a board game or a computer game where I get to do the tactics thing. The thing that I love about tabletop games is that you're not restricted by the code. Your
Hmm.
limit is your imagination and what the GM, unless you're the GM, will let you get away with.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, that's where I find tabletop it is kind of freeing, right? Like, because your limit is the people at the table.
Yep. Yeah, it's the ultimate computer game.
In a way, except, like, for me, and I've told some people this, I think so I don't want to particularly get into a discussion of what everyone thinks of 4th edition D&D, but 4th edition D&D, I hated it as a role-playing game because, and okay, I've heard people say that, including I think Owen Casey Stevens has said that he feels like if 4th edition had been sold as something else, it would have been regarded as a great game.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was such a drastic departure from what we knew in 2nd and the evolution to 3 and 3.5, and then this other thing came along that was, in my mind, very much trying to take the MMO craze that was ginormous at the time and translate it to a tabletop game. That's where, for me, I didn't get my do the weird thing fix. It was very much abilities and once per combat, mimicking the cooldown cycle of abilities on games like World of Warcraft or whatever. And like, I don't know, that for me, and I'm not knocking anyone else's taste, that's not what I come to tabletop for.
Right.
And I think you have designed a world, a setting here that like went, all that weird stuff that you go, well, that'd be fun. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So you know it obviously much better than I do, being as you wrote it. Do you want to give people just kind of an overview of like some of like the player character stuff, because you've got some really unique stuff there, and like some of your species and whatever.
Yeah. So we could start from the very, very beginning, right? So the Neon Wars of 1992 happen and sets the globe, Earth as it's called, into what is called the bogus age, to where it's like a new neo dark ages for millions of years. And then then aliens come, and like all this other stuff starts happening. Magic comes to the planet, which is now Earth, URTH, and then it's the dawn of the gnarly age. So the game is set within some time. There's never a specified like timeline. It's kind of all vague.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the gnarly age where Earth exists, and we are in the continent of Neoterra XX, which is comprised of three mega cities: Detroit Prime, the Kingdom of Miami, and Nueva Angeles, and everything in between those three mega humanoid like settlements is Wasteland, with like humanoid settlements here and there, and all these other crazy things in between. So the basic premise is you are a scumdog adventurer who needs to pay rent for your apartment and like all that stuff, but you do it via adventuring, like trying to make money, finding like weird ancient artifacts, and taking jobs for the government that like they would have to disavow all information of, like the jobs that are too dirty even for like the corrupt government to do. They hire scumdogs to do them. So then from there, all the different scumdog classes, you have the Bruticorn, which is a bicorned unicorn, like a descendant of the unicorn, who is half mechanical, half bicorn, because they got involved in bicorn gang wars. That I know it goes deep. That they ended up getting like disfigured and everything in the battles, and deemed not worthy enough for the gang, so they get ousted from the gang, outfitted with cybernetics, and now you're a scumdog.
So bicorns are bipedal centaur unicorns
Bipedal, yeah, I guess that would be right.
with cybernetics.
With cybernetics, with two horns though.
And this is what he leads off with. I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's why B. I'm trying to like think alphabetically, and then there's the Cosmic Barbarian, which they're the dual wielding class, and to get to their barbarian rage, or juiced out as we call it, they snort a space rock and get high off it, and that's what triggers their berserker rage, if you will. Cyber skins are cybernetic Ronald Reagans that were laid dormant in the like the underground, like in the Earth's core for millions of years, and one day they all became like sentient and online, and they have like no purpose but to just be scumdogs. And there is, what's another good one? I'm trying to think. There's the Heather. The Heather's like a all female hits like super soldiers from Vietnam 2 The Revenge that they brought back online to do other like other jobs and fighting wars and stuff, and they turned into scumdogs, of course, because at the end of the day, rent needs to be paid and food needs to be bought.
So much just feels like it grew like out of like those. How do I want to say this? There's those movies that were made that were actually pretty good. I mean, they were kind of cheesy, whatever. And then they made the sequels that got progressively
Yeah, they jumped the
worse.
shark.
Like, okay, like one of my favorite films, kind of in this, like Lake Placid, the original
Hmm.
with Betty White and whatever. Great film. Not like a cinematic masterpiece, but it's absolutely wonderful. Then you get to Lake Placid 2, which is not very good. Then you get Lake Placid meets versus Anaconda, which is just this bizarro like sci-fi channel B movie intentionally made that way. And it feels like you took some of these like that spirit and went, what else weird can I mash into this idea and make it fun?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, huge B movie inspired fan for sure.
Like I don't even really know where to go with this because it's just it the whole book, it's got like flavors of like I know a couple of the adventures that like I think there's some stuff that's like in the book and some of the stuff that's like kind of included in the dust jacket of the edition that I have and whatnot. Like also has kind of these like escape from New York type vibes and like so
Hmm.
it very much was this world kind of your imagination of what might happen if the current world's knowledge of our history was from finding WWF tapes, and I'm using WWF intentionally because of the era,
Yeah.
and like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover videotapes or
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. Yeah, so that's the big thing, like how it's like justified in the book is the Chrono Sages, they like have the ability to use the sacred smoke and peer back into time past the neon wars and kind of see things kind of like an oracle would show them, and they see like our world and they interpret it, and then like that's kind of how that fleshed out society into the future. So it's like a little bit of Ready Player One, where like everybody in the future in Ready Player One is obsessed with the 80s because like Halloway, the guy who made the Oasis, was obsessed with the 80s.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like that basic idea too.
Okay. So, I mean, what for anyone who hasn't played it, and I'm sure, relatively small numbers of our audience may have experienced this game, but like aside from all the gonzo we've talked about, what what would people expect if they decide to play this game with their friends other than 80s 90s inspired craziness?
The big thing is it's like a beer and pretzels game, so you don't have to take it seriously, and it's great for one shots. But a campaign can very well happen as well. Like that's not a problem, but just to have fun, just to sit around the table, not worry about encumbrance or like anything, and just have fun, roll dice, and drink energy drinks or beverages of your choice with your friends, and just you know realistically it's a game, right? And with a game, the main thing that you want to do is have fun. I know I said it like 5 times, but it's like that's like the rule of all of it. Like I want to play a game and enjoy myself. I don't want to play a game and get mad and get frustrated.
Well, it also feels like with all the gonzo, it's also got some kind of because of the world context, like it's got some grit to it too. Like again, like you said, Judge Dredd, which is kind of a gritty, grim thing in a lot of ways. And I don't know, for my personal style, like this kind of both gonzo and gritty, even though in some ways they seem opposite, actually meld really well, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I think if you're someone whose brain works that way, this is a great system, I would think, for someone who's kind of improv heavy because the system itself is reasonably light. The theme is so wide open that, oh, wait, this would be cool. I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely intentional because I wanted to make a world where you could do a Mad Max game, and you could do a Judge Dredd style game because you could just never leave the mega cities. There's a ton of stuff there. There's the Kingdom of Miami thinks it's D&D, so like you could run a D&D like style fantasy, low fantasy like esque game in it too. There's just a bunch of different like ways to even play within the game that works too.
Hmm. So Los Angeles, Miami, obviously coastal thing. Did Detroit just get picked because it's in the middle, or does Detroit have a significance for you?
Well, I mean, Detroit is all in it. It's in like every '90s movie, late '80s, early '90s movie. Always ends up taking in place in Detroit. Like RoboCop is like the biggest example of that. So it's
Right.
like I kind of just like tried to think broad strokely. It's like okay, because everyone asks about Reagan too. Like, why is Reagan in it? It's like, well, when you think of the '80s, like he's one of the main people you always think about.
He was president from 80 to 88.
Right, yeah, he was the president of the '80s. So, like, it's kinda I kinda thought about that too. I was like, okay, so, like, obviously, I didn't wanna do New York because everybody does New York, right? Like,
Right.
which there's nothing wrong with New York. I live in New York State, so, like, I'm no stranger to the city, but I always think about Detroit, like, it always has that weird tie-in to the '80s, '90s for me.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. Like, I mean, I guess Miami. You have Miami Vice. The fact it's south, it's east, it's coastal. There's a lot of things to play with in that. And L.A. is L.A. I mean, and then I know cyberpunk's a big thing for you. Night City is well, it's not L.A., but it's still
Close enough.
California.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was just curious. Was there a reason other than like I guess you pointed out a RoboCop, whatever? Like it was Detroit, not Chicago or St. Louis or
Yeah, it was just yeah, the major thing was RoboCop, and it was like to try to figure out a landmass big enough because essentially Detroit Prime extends like Mega City 1 does to where I'm pretty sure it takes up I have to look at my notes, but it takes up a good portion of Ohio and like down into Michigan and like envelops that whole Midwest into one giant city.
okay, okay,
Well, logically, if you really think if a neon war happened, DC and New York would have been obliterated, like the whole Eastern Seaboard. I mean, that's thinking way, way, 5+ years after writing it. I just thought of that, but
well,
I
no, but
mean,
and the what do you want to say? There was a lot of going with where you kind of started your timeline. I mean, as an '80s kid, right? Like that. They're gonna, the Russians are gonna nuke us, and half of whatever is gonna just not be there.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was,
exactly.
I mean, looking back now, was it maybe a little bit unrealistic? Yeah, but it wasn't at the time, or at least it
Nope,
wasn't in the social consciousness.
not at all. That was a big thing. Was yeah, that it was in entertainment too. Look at how many movies have the Russians as the bad guys, and
Hmm.
then I mean Rocky Four being like the ultimate showdown of East versus West.
Yeah,
I guess
that
East.
Red Dawn.
Yeah, Red Dawn. Yeah, there's a ton. I mean, yeah, Red Dawn is like is one of the best examples for sure. That's like, I mean, that literally is hits home, right? Like,
Now that's a curious concept, and this literally just hit me. Could you do like a do the mega cities have like scout parties or scout armies that go out to like do stuff where you could play a Red Dawn type game against a mega city force?
yeah, absolutely. The one of the biggest. I mean, the governments are corrupt, obviously, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's got that cyberpunk, high tech, low life kind of feel where every mega everything that's in charge has turned into this corrupt system where the little guys always in the grinders. So you could definitely do like a Red Dawn situation for sure. Well, I mean, even like the street enforcers are statted up as villains and bad guys.
Hmm. So we've talked about this. This has been out now for what, 4 years ish?
Yeah, like about 5 years. I think the
Five. Okay.
first Kickstarter was 2020.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I know I've been aware of it, like I said, for around the 3 to 4 year mark.
Yeah,
I know, in addition to you've done some printings or alternate editions. I know based on what I've seen on your Discord channel and all that, you have a lot of kind of small supplements, adventure type stuff that you've put out.
Yeah.
Now, are you primarily the? I mean, obviously you're the original creator, but do you have like a group of people that work on that, or is this pretty much all your stuff, or do you have like a community thing that you kind of sponsor, whatever?
Um, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So if it's a like official first party release, I only write. I can't afford anybody else, right? Like at this point. But then yeah, so we do a lot of there's a good third party license that you can make Neon Lord stuff for, and people have used, and then through the Discord community, we're building kind of like a fanzine where you
Hmm.
can submit your stuff, and then we're gonna make it and release it to the public for free.
Okay, okay. So obviously, kind of a small press thing, right?
Yeah.
Your PDFs are on drive through wherever. If people want to get the physical books, I know in October you had told me you at the time were being distributed by Goodman Games. Is that still the case?
No, so Goodman and I have parted ways in January with for a good reason. Not like it was amicable. I got picked up by Exalted Funeral to
Okay.
co-publish. So Goodman only did the distribution, and they and he's got his own thing going on. Like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on over there. So Exalted, I talked to Exalted, and then they're gonna co-publish the book. So then the third printing of the book, it's kind of there's a kind of few copies floating around here and there, but the main bulk of it around November is going to be through Exalted.
Okay. So if you're, and I'm pretty sure they do distribution to
Yep.
game stores or whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with them as the website, and I've got a couple things through them. I think Hell Knight shipped through them. I know the Monty Python game was published through them.
Yep.
Um, and they're kind of a cool. I guess they probably tend more toward edgy stuff in a way, but not necessarily edgy just for the sake of edgy.
Yeah. Yeah. You nailed it. Like edgy look, aesthetic, but it's not Lamentations of the Princess, right? Or Flame
Right,
Princess.
right. Edgy in an art sense more than content sense, I guess is a
Yeah.
better way to say it.
Yep.
Um, and what else do you want to tell people about this game? Because, like, I own it. I've had it for a while. Like anyone who's into RPGs, we have stacks of books as tall as we are that we're going to read and use. We want
Hmm.
to read and use, but then that crazy real life thing gets in the way, and you don't get to.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm a fan, but I feel like I've come to the conclusion I'm a game collector more than a game player, right? Like I collect more than I ever get to play, sadly.
Well, I think we all do. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I've talked with designers before, and they go, "Oh yeah, my collection has you know thousands of titles in it," and I'm just like, and some of those people are designers, and they go, "And you know why I have them? It's because there's always that one little nugget in that game that you can take and build something with."
Yeah, that's how I justify buying them too. It's like, "Oh, I got this for research."
Yeah, right. So what do you like? What do you want people to take away from if they've not heard of Neon Lords before our conversation today?
That's a good question. I would say pretty much give it a shot, right? Like just check it out. There's if you're into you don't have to be the big thing is like it does rely heavily on like like movie quotes and like kind of like some references here and there, but you don't have to get the reference or be into that sort of thing to enjoy the game too. I know that's like a big like kind of like a wall sometimes people are always like, "Oh, well I think like cuz I'm not really an 80s kid. I won't get it." It's like, "Yeah, but you will. It'll be fun." There's a lot of like timeless themes that go on too.
Well, but I think, like you said, there's so many movie references. You can just go back and like, just because you didn't see RoboCop in the '80s doesn't mean you can't go watch RoboCop on whatever streaming service it's on.
Yeah, I highly
Oh,
recommend it too.
oh, they're great movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of quintessential cyberpunk world, in my opinion.
That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely consider RoboCop cyberpunk.
Like,
They
it's
might
not as techy, but
no.
the tone of the
Oh
world
yeah, the grit's
is.
there.
So I know, uh, kind of another thing. I know you've done work with Artal Sorian on Cyberpunk Red. Anything
I
else
did.
you want
Yeah.
to talk about regarding like what else you've done as a game creator?
So, outside of my own stuff and Artel, no one ever asks me to ever do anything, which is kind of like weird and sad, but no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I have been doing like a bunch of like other games. I did a zombie brain eaters, kind of like with John Hambone McGuire from the Vintage RPG podcast. We did a zombie game together. It's kind of our take on Return of the Living Dead.
Hmm.
So that Exalted is co-publishing that as well, and then I just did a game called 1-900 Fantasy, where it simulates the idea of calling a 1-900 number and playing a simulated fantasy game over the phone, but it still uses dice and stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That,
it's. Oh, go ahead.
no, no, no. I was going to say also now, I know the two of your friends, you and Brian Colin of
Yep.
Vast Grim. I've seen you two cross promoting each other's stuff on social media enough that I've lost track of. Are you two actually working on anything, or do you just both think the other guy's stuff is really cool?
No, so so he did a skirmish tabletop game based on the Forbidden Psalm rule set called Skirmish, and I talked him into letting me do a Neon Lords version that got attached onto his project. So when you back it, you can get the Neon Lords version as well.
Okay. Like I said, I got to meet you both literally the same weekend, although I had gotten to talk to Brian for the show, like, I don't know, 3 weeks before that or something. But yeah, you guys both kind of have that vibe of, look, I made this thing, come share my fun, which
Yeah,
is the
exactly.
thing that that to me is the spirit of, I'll call it indie RPG.
Yeah, yeah, like it's. Yeah, I mean, you're not making any money off this. You're doing it for the love and the expression of being able to like make your world and enjoy the fact that there's other people out there that are not only willing to play in your world but enjoy it as much as you do.
Hmm. And now I remember when I got into gaming in the 90s thinking, all these people that make these games must be like super cool, mega awesome. And I'm not saying this to say that they y'all aren't, but doing this podcast and getting to interview people and meet people, it's become so much more apparent to me that nah, most of y'all are just regular gamer people like the rest of us. And again, I've talked to enough of you smaller press creators that, like, yes, we make tens of dollars off all this time we put into everything. you know,
Right.
most of y'all still have regular full-time jobs. This is the thing you do on nights and weekends. All the time the rest of us spend playing games, you're down there typing away, writing things and laying out. And I don't know, I guess the long way around to just kind of say thank you for giving up your time to play to make cool stuff for the rest of us to play.
Yeah, I mean it's a labor of love, that's for sure, but it's so much fun, like just laughing at myself, like writing ridiculous things.
Yeah, well, and like to me, uh, and I think I said this when we started off. Neon Lords to me feels like a game that internally takes itself seriously, but from the external player perspective, very much is tongue in cheek, poking fun at itself, laughing at itself, and just we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it for sure.
So, you have anything else you want to plug? Anything like that? As far as social medias, websites.
Yeah, so you can find there's a few things. You can find me over at neonlords.com. It's kind of like a hub, I believe. I don't know. I haven't really I got a guy who does all that for me.
I know
But
that feeling.
I think let me pull it up here. I'm pretty sure it's a gateway, if you will, to the world wide web of what is all Neon Lords. But I know there's like it has like you can buy it there. There's resources. There's like the random generators that we have, so you can literally click a button and it'll tell you like what you looted on the dead dude. It's got the 6 start rules, so you can kind of check out what it's all about before you jump into it. that's like neonlords.com. That's easy to remember. But my big thing is I do a Patreon every month where it's called Knights of the Slime Table, and essentially, do you remember like the Burger King Kids Club?
Vaguely.
So
I
it's
actually
like
grew up very rural, but I vaguely remember it existing.
so I mean, okay, so it would be, what's another reference, like an 80s 90s fan club, right? So where you
Right.
would get like a membership card in the mail, and you would get stuff. I wanted to emulate that in the modern times with 40-year-old adults that have disposable income, right? Like, so essentially the Knights of the Slime Table is my Patreon, where there's a bunch of different tiers you can join, but it's a newsletter every month and a 12-page adventure supplement. Whatever I feel like doing that month is guaranteed. But then on top of that, there's like cards that I make for Neon Quest, like the fake 80s game, but they're usable in Neon Lords.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do like I try to do it every Sunday. It escapes me from time to time. It's from the screen to the slime table, where I will take an item, monster, character from popular culture and gamify it into Neon Lords. The last one I did was Jan Michael Vincent is alive and well in the Neon Lords universe, and and he's an NPC that he can call forth the Airwolf to do a strafing mission on a location of your choice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's just wacky stuff on there. Like, I have a blast. I love doing the Patreon because it sharpens your creative chops, because you have to come up with something every single month. And
Mm-hmm.
like, and then this last one, so we're in June. I did it's a supplemental book called Super Sausage Systems. So like the name of the company, Super Savage Systems, that's like my company I make Neon Lords out of. It's essentially just all meat related. There's like a hot dog warrior class, and there's mustard mancy spells, and like monsters involving meat, and items involving meat and hot dogs and stuff. So it's just like stuff like that. And then I did like hair rules are in the book. Makeup rules, to where you can add makeup and what effects they would have a couple months ago, and just random. It's like whatever I come up with. I mean, I don't even know what I'm gonna do next month. Like, it just and that's in like 2 days.
Well, like, but I feel like that's the spirit of the game, right? It is what strikes you as being appropriate.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's whatever I get obsessed with at the moment, and then I can crank out something for it, and then put it into the Neon Lord zeitgeist, and then move on to something
Mm-hmm.
else that catches my attention, like like a shiny object.
Wait. Shiny objects? I don't know
Yeah.
anything about that. All right. Well, I think then, unless you have anything more to say, I just tell people go check Neon Lords of Toxic Wasteland out. It's great fun, and like you can tell, Brian is a fun guy, and he just wants you to come share in his madness.
Yep, exactly.
So I think with that, unless you have anything to add, it's time to move to Game of the Week.
Nope, that's my spiel, is the book and the Patreon. Other than that,
All righty.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
So I've kind of briefed you on how Game of the Week works. Would you like to go first? You want me to go first, and you can kind of listen and get a little more of a feel for it, or
sure, yeah, go for it. I'll pull up all the info for mine too, so I don't.
okay, yeah, I'll drop a link. There's right above the channel we're in. There's a channel called Guest Green Room or just Green Room, and that's kind of where we drop the links for these, just so that everyone can see what everyone else is talking about. So I'm going to go a little bit outside of the norm here and bring up something that is a bundle that's on drive through currently, and this is another bundle put out kind of around Owen Casey Stevens, who, for those of you who don't know, is a guy who has been active in the role playing game creation community since approximately the dawn of third edition. Done a lot of work with, be it Wizards, lots and lots of work with Paizo on Pathfinder, done a bunch of work with Green Ronin, has done a lot of work with a lot of people, and is one of those creators and people in the RPG creator community who seems to be almost universally loved. Like everyone I talk to seems to think he's a great guy. We had him on the show a while back to talk about the OGL when that whole controversy was going on. And for anyone who hasn't been in the RPG online space, Owen has had a battle with cancer. As a largely freelance writer, obviously his medical coverage is not that great. So he is still, well, at this point, he is in remission. Well, to quote the line in the description of this bundle, thankfully the cancer is currently in remission. Sadly, the bills are not. So this is a bundle called the Owen Stevens Summer Survival Spectacular. Yeah, Owen Stevens Summer Survival Spectacular bundle. It is a whole bunch of titles, I would say largely fantasy and probably primarily geared directly for, say, 5e and Pathfinder, but there's a lot of somewhat system agnostic stuff in here. There's resources, yeah, like stand up paper mini things, there's maps, there's all kinds of cool stuff. The bundle cost for to buy the bundle is like $30. Separate value if you bought all the titles individually is over $800. So it's a good value. No, maybe you're not going to use all of it, but the proceeds are also going to someone worthwhile. And kind of the key thing, like the key part of this, Owen sat down and wrote a collection of essays that the collection is called Essays from a TTRPG Professional. But I think this is something that could be valuable to anyone who kind of wants to get into creating, you know, issues from like, well, how long before you recontact someone if you're trying to get work with them? How fast do you expect to write? What are pay rates? And a lot of this is just built out of his 20 plus 25 years of experience in the industry. And, I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to deal with him, Brian, but I know my, contacting people around, he just seems to be a universally well regarded and all around nice guy.
Yeah, no, I never got to meet him.
Like I said, my only direct, dealing with him was we had him on the show a little about a year ago, I guess, when the whole OGL over the new D&D thing was going huge. And we brought him on just to give people context of like what for anyone who came into the gaming space post the OGL just being a thing, you don't really understand how big of a deal it was.
It was huge.
And so, like I said, it's a great value. There's stuff in there, like I said, be it just maps, little things, whatever. There's bound to be stuff you can use and inspiration, and it's going for something good. So it's not a game per se, but there's all kinds of like necromancers, almanacs. There's tons of like adventures. There's all kinds of stuff. Spell card print things. Just again, like I said, tons and tons of stuff. So the Owen Stevens Summer Survival Spectacular bundle is my game of the week for this week.
Very cool. So you need me to do mine?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm gonna pop the link into the green room
right.
for you. So the game I want to talk about is called Space Gits. It is a dexterity-based skirmish game by the guy who made Gaslands. So essentially, you are drunk space orcs causing a ruckus in like whatever space town that you find yourself in. But it's dexterity based in where you roll the dice onto the skirmish battle mat, I guess if you would say the zone, and you have to move your drunken space orc towards one of those dice, like however many inches. Like if you roll like a 5, you got to move 5 inches to that dice. And if you bump into something like a bottle cap, you collect the bottle cap. The more bottle caps you get, you win. But if you bump into another orc, then you start fighting them. But then damage is accumulated by stacking dice in a dice tower next to the mini. And the more damage you take, if that dice tower falls over, then you fall over drunk and you got to get your space orc buddies to come pick you up. So yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. So it when did it fund? It funded maybe a couple months ago on Kickstarter, but the rules were free. They probably still are. He had a free rules to show you how to play, and yeah, there's a quick start rules that you could still get on here. It's got a third party license already to where you can make your own um, game using the he has a name for the system. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But I mean, like, I'm definitely gonna make like a Neon Lords version of this because we have a bunch of minis out. We got the other skirmish game, so why not do like a drunken brawl style mini game using these rules?
Yeah, well, it looks like too he's got a pledge manager thing up on GameFound.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, there's a link on the Kickstarter page.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, just hit the open manager or pledge manager open. Perfect. Yeah, and you could go.
This looks just, oh my God, this looks amazing. And I apologize. I just realized I posted my link to mine in the wrong channel, which is why you were probably staring at the screen going, what is he talking about?
That's all right. I just kind of just went with it. I'm like, let you do your thing.
So I reposted it if you want to take a look at that. But
Yeah, I will definitely take a look.
you know, no, this looks great. Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
I'm super excited. And then, like, of course, there is a Judge Dredd looking unit of space orcs dressed like Judge Dredd. So I had to, I was like, well, it looks like I'm playing that faction. Like, he already had my number before I even pledged.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like I'm super excited for this game, like enough to where like I want to build something with the system.
Mhm. That's cool though. This looks. I love the idea of it using how you physically roll the dice as part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know he talked about it, which like is mind blowing to me because I thought I was the only one who appreciated it. So Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, if you're ever familiar with that board game,
No.
there is like there's like what are they called? I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's like encounters and like events that happen, and one of them involves you stacking dice where it's stacking d6s to where you have to visibly see at least one pip, and if it falls over then you lose. But like that was the inspiration for this game, was that one takeaway from Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, like, was awesome because I was like, man, like I thought about that all the time. Like, how can I would love to. I love the idea of incorporating more dexterity based things into gaming.
I just like the fact that they took something that was just a thing you did and made it part of the game.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
All right. Well, boy, that's a cool one. I like that a lot. So, I guess at this point, thank you for coming and taking the time to talk about your game
Oh, of
and
course.
share your passion for it, because I say it all the time, but that's the spirit of these, small indie stuff is the come share my fun.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I love this gonzo retro 80s, 90s thing that you've built. And I really need to sit down and give it the attention I need to take it out and show it to some people because it's too damn cool not to.
Oh, I appreciate that.
But I think with all that being said, there'll be links for all of, the stuff for Neon Lords and Brian's Patreon and all that. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes. There's also links to our email, our Discord. I know Brian has a wonderful Discord community. I'm on there. I don't get to read it because I'm a Discord addict. I have way too many channels to that.
Oh yeah, I have so many channels that I have to sadly neglect because I got to keep up with just mine.
Well, right? Like,
which is a good thing, a good problem to have.
But we'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes. There's links to our Discord. We do a Patreon if you want to toss us a few bucks. If you don't, that's cool. Just enjoy the show. Tell your friends, share it if you think it's a particularly good episode. Maybe even share it on your own social medias. There'll be links to our social medias, which sadly I don't pay much attention to because I suck at social media. But I think with all that, again, thank you, Brian, and to all the rest of y'all out there that are listeners, be kind to each other and get out there and play some RPGs.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.